We are back at Eckles. This is the Eckles interchange, and I'm again visiting the entrance to the new Demerara River Bridge. This time I want to see the completion of that roundabout, and I want to find out whether it's possible to actually walk across the bridge. Now, I thought it would be a good idea if the government would open the bridge for pedestrian traffic like for a couple of days before it becomes officially open for vehicular traffic. That would allow some of us to actually walk across the bridge and get its true dimensions and scale and feel, and see the technology up close. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's something I've been pushing for. I've suggested in the social media, and I'm waiting to see if that's going to happen. But for now, I'm going to take a look at the roundabout, which I suppose is completed now. It's about a week ago, maybe more, since the last time I visited, and I showed you what the roundabout looks like at the stage in which construction was at the time. Now I want to return to see what it looks like now that it's completed, or at least it should be completed since the last time I was here. And so let's take a look at it. Right now we're at the roundabout at the interchange. That behind me is the reflecting pond with the jaguar, and of course behind me is where I've come from. That is looking north towards Georgetown along Heroes Highway, and where I'm headed is of course south, which is now behind me, towards the bridge and Temeri Airport and so on. So let's go take a look at what's happened since the last time we were here. So yes guys, we're back at this roundabout. That's the Jaguar. Right, that's the bronze sculpture of a jaguar here at the Eckles interchange. And it's about 6:37. It's about 7 a.m. on Thursday morning here in Georgetown, Guyana. Thursday the 25th of September. The water in some of these pools is becoming green. This one seems to have leaked out a little bit. Of course, this one is a little clearer. But yeah, let me explain to you what's happening in Guyana. We're actually going through a growth spurt, a growth pulse, an economic growth spurt. So in the last 5 years or so, since oil and gas industry started operating in Guyana, there has been an influx of new capital, new money from the oil industry. Remember, there was an oil contract with ExxonMobil that involved was ExxonMobil and China Offshore Oil Company, and I think it was Hess in the initial agreement. Hess has recently been bought out by Chevron. Chevron used to operate in Venezuela until the Venezuelan government kicked them out, and the US government retaliated by basically collapsing the Venezuelan economy. However, recent moves by the American administration, by Washington, has been to reauthorize operation of Chevron in Venezuela. Of course, the Chinese have also been building platforms for extracting oil in Venezuela, and in Guyana, Chevron is taking over the share of Hess in the consortium, and the Chinese, who own CNOOC, it's a state-owned oil company, are in partnership with these two American companies, which is also raising some concerns in Washington. So apparently, Washington is considering the tax benefits, the revising the tax benefits that ExxonMobil receives from the US government to extract oil in Guyana. And part of that is because of the involvement of China's offshore oil company in this consortium. Now that's the background to what has happened in the last 5 years, that Guyana has received from this consortium, ExxonMobil, China offshore oil company, and Hess now, Chevron. Guyana has received about $7.2 billion in profit oil and royalty. And that money, half of which, about 4 billion of which, has already been spent by the government over the last 5 years. That money, along with loans from China and other lenders like IDB and Exim Bank and so on, has fueled the development in Guyana over the last 5 years. So the bridge that we're looking at now was built with a loan from China for $260 million. But the bridge and all of the peripheral work, like I said in the past videos, probably will amount to about $1 billion US dollars when it's completed. So another $750 million US dollars is being spent. And where is our money coming from? It's coming from the oil and gas industry. These roads, for example, this highway, which is built over the last 3 years or so, has also been built with money from oil and gas industry. So there was this contract that was signed in 2020, 2019, I think, or 2016. 2016, this contract was signed in 2016. Oil production began at the end of 2019, 2020, early 2020. That contract gave Guyana 14.25% of total revenue from the oil production by ExxonMobil and the consortium. And that is what brought in $7.2 billion over the last 5 years. Probably more now, because we're coming to the end of the third quarter in 2025. But that is the money that is driving the development in Guyana. Right, about $7 billion in loans and about $4 billion spent so far from the oil income, amounting to about 11 or 12 billion US dollars spent over the last 5 years. But the question, the issue I'm trying to drive at is that this amounts to a growth spurt. In other words, Guyana's economy has grown in a precipitous manner. It's like a teenager going through puberty and then shooting up in height, right? Growing very rapidly for a period of time. The problem with that growth spurt is that it does not last. It doesn't continue beyond, say, 17 years old. So a child, a teenager, might grow rapidly between the ages of 13 and 17. By the time he's 18, he's probably reached his maximum height. It's not going to grow as much beyond 18. And this is the situation we find in Guyana. The problem that I'm trying to address is the fact that we're going through this growth spurt, but people think that this is permanent. It's not a permanent growth. Eventually, we will plateau. And therefore, when you plan and you invest, you have to do your investment with that in mind. I'm going to come back to that point in a minute. Let me show you what's happening here. This is the current state of affairs at the new Demerara Bridge. You can see this is where they've widened the road, right, leading up to the new roundabout on both sides. You can see it's not yet completed. That is, widening of the road is not yet completed. Let's see. Yes, guys, so as I was saying, this widening of the shoulder of the road has not been completed. Right, like I said, they're gonna have to eventually make a smooth transition from the wider section, wider shoulder onto the current highway, right? So that, for example, remains to be done. However, what has been done since the last time we were here is they've put in this guardrail. So you can see they've put in guardrails along the perimeter of this roundabout, and they've actually completed the roundabout. So straight ahead of us is the roundabout. Remember the last time we were here about a week ago, they were still laying concrete slabs to complete the surface of the road. But now not only have they completed the roundabout, they've also put in the road markings, and traffic is flowing smoothly. So again, that's the guardrails, right? They put in these guardrails. They're putting these guardrails along the perimeter, and this is the new roundabout. So they've put in the center island, and they've put in, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 lanes. So there are 4 lanes of traffic in this new roundabout. That's of course looking towards the bridge. You can see in the distance, the bridge is way in the distance. Right there is the long line of street lights on the approach road, and then the bridge at the end of the road. But this is what they've done so far. They've actually completed this roundabout here at Providence, right, for the entrance to the bridge, and they've put in all of these street lights. So these are the street lights that are surrounding the roundabout. Don't know why the video is not smooth today, but this is what has happened since the last time we were here. The roundabout has been completed, and although the bridge is not open, you can see traffic coming from the south heading to Georgetown. This is traffic on a Thursday morning at about 7:15 a.m. Traffic heading into Georgetown. And you can see that traffic is slowing down, almost coming to a stop here at the roundabout. That's the traffic heading into Georgetown on Thursday morning, Thursday 25th of September at about 7:15 a.m. in the morning. Now, this is the entrance to the bridge. And the question arises, when this bridge opens, as it eventually will be, and the traffic from the bridge joins this traffic on Heroes Highway heading into Georgetown, what will happen? What will become of traffic congestion? What will happen to traffic congestion on Heroes Highway? We are waiting with bated breath to see what happens. In the meantime, the roundabout has been completed. All right, the roundabout has been completed. You can see, let me take you to the edge of this roundabout so you can see the expanse of it. It seems quite large. Right, this is how large the roundabout is. That's traffic coming from Georgetown on a Thursday morning. Traffic heading south is usually less dense than traffic heading, less congested than traffic heading north. Traffic heading north into the city, as you can see, is backed up for probably 2 or 3 miles into the city from this point. We're about 3 miles from Georgetown at this point, and that traffic runs heavy all the way into Georgetown. From what we can see in the distance is probably Mucka Arcadia in a way in the distance, then Providence, which is where we are now. So this is what's happening, guys. This is where we are on the 25th day of September 2025. Now this is the bridge. Right, this is in the distance, way in the distance. Rather jerky today, but way in the distance, you can see the bridge, the new Demerara River Bridge, completed and ready to be open. Now, like I said, I would like to walk over the bridge, but I think I'm gonna have to put it off for another day. We've already done a walk down this road, the access road, and show you the intersection. But what I want to do is to go over the high span section walking. In the meantime, this is what we find here at the roundabout, the new roundabout here at Providence at the bridge. Like I said, this is the traffic heading into Georgetown. This traffic is congested all the way into the city from here. Right, this is what it looks like from here all the way into the city. And the question is, use your imagination. What do you think would happen when this bridge opens and traffic from the West Bank and the West Coast joins this traffic into the city? But it's progress. And the point I was trying to make before I got to this point where I'm showing you the roundabout is that this is a growth spurt, right? It represents a growth spurt that Guyana is going through. But what you need to understand is that this growth spurt is not sustainable unless it is backed up by earnings, additional earnings. In other words, Guyana cannot depend on oil and gas, and we can't depend on simply funding these. Yeah, we can't depend on oil and gas to fund these projects, which we need to continue building. In other words, we need more bridges, we need more roads, we need even tunnels, we need railway, and I've talked about this in previous videos. But we can't continue to fund this. We can't rely on oil and gas alone to fund these projects. We have to grow the economy. And to grow the economy means we have to see this as what it is. It's a growth spurt, but we need to invest in such a way that we build more earning potential into the society. Now, building a bridge and building roads definitely increases the size of the economy because it creates more efficiency, probably creates more commerce, more business, and so on. So this is actually quite good. Investing in the infrastructure is good in the sense that it does work towards expanding the economy. But investment in other words, taking or spending our uh, earnings from oil and gas on infrastructure is not the most efficient way to grow. We need to invest that money into income producing assets at home and abroad, and then use the profits from those assets to build the economy, to build infrastructure. In other words, we need to get a return on investment instead of spending down. We spent $4 billion of our $7 billion so far. Instead of continuing to spend down that money, we should be investing it in income producing assets all over the world, and then using profits from the wealth fund to build infrastructure. But I'm going to discuss that in the next video when I talk about what I'm doing to build my own personal economy and how you can participate in it. This is what's happening here on Thursday, 25th of September in Guyana. If you want to see more content like this, click like and subscribe. Share this video with friends and family around the world. Let you know what's happening here in the fastest growing country in the world, Guyana. Later!